This is Dr. Carroll, and this is another video in the Python list series. And this one deals with lists and for loops. So let's start by talking about iterating through each element of a list. And now we have three options for iterating through lists. One, we can iterate by element. Two, we can iterate by index. And three, we can iterate by both index and element. Let's start with iterate by element. So earlier this semester, we've seen how to iterate through other things. We've seen with numbers for like I in range, for characters in a string with for I in string, and now we're going to do the same thing for lists. And this is very common, and I might add the Pythonic way to iterate through a list. So let's talk about the syntax. So this is we're using the for loop and then the keyword in here. And we're going to iterate through a list, and it's going to copy in each of the elements in the list into loop variable. And then we're going to have our loop body in. In the loop body, we'll probably, but not required, are going to do something with that loop variable, each element in the list. So let's see some examples here. So if we were organizing our schoolwork, we'd have assignments working on project 4, CS reading, and math exercises. So we could say for each task in the assignments list, so that'll take project 4, copy it into task, CS reading, copy it into task, math exercises, copy it into task. We could say work on, state the task, done, eat a bowl of ice cream, and then just add some spacing. So if we executed this, we would get an output that said work on project 4, done, eat a bowl of ice cream, r space, work on CS reading, done, eat a bowl of ice cream, work on math exercises, done, eat a bowl of ice cream. Not healthy, but you got to do what it takes to get the job done. Okay, so another example illustrating when we iterate by element, it makes a copy. So let's change just the loop body to illustrate this. So task is now assigned done, so we're overriding task from each assignment. But now let's see what is the contents of our original list, and they're unchanged. So notice task is a copy of each element and not actually a reference to that element. And so we can change it, and it's not going to have an effect outside of the loop. So we need to be careful about that. If we're trying to have an effect, we need to do something else. Which brings us to iterate by index. And so this is very common to iterate through a loop when we, one, need to keep track of the index, and two, we need to change each element, or at least certain elements. So the syntax here is for index in range, and for range we're going to give it the length of the list, so that if the list changes or something like that, we're always have an updated amount. And then again, the loop body, and do something probably with index or potentially the element using the index there. Okay, so let's see an example. So we want to shift all grades up so that one of them is 100%. So given these grades, and I've sorted them to make it easier, 95, 92, 91, 89, 85, 81, 78. And if we said, okay, well, what's the shift amount? That's 100 minus the max. Ooh, good use of a built-in there. And then, we need to make sure that given a different list here, that what if somebody got extra credit 102? Well, that would actually shift it back down to 100. So we'll just use max again, this time just with two whole numbers, 2 ints. And then we can say, hey, go through each, we want to produce the index for every element in grades. So not a copy of the element, but the actual index. But now given the index, then we can say, okay, with that index, I'm going to take it, modify it, and assign it, add to it, and assign back to it with the compound operator here. Okay, so that's going to take, so shift amount's going to be 5. We're going to add 5 to 95, assign it there, and it will actually change this value. And then we're going to take 5, add it to 92, and so on. So if we printed out grades now when it's done, sure enough, it says 100, 97, 96, 90. Notice we've added 5 to each one of them, and it did change the elements inside the original list. Okay, well, you might want to do both. And so you might want to iterate by both index and element. So to do that, let's use enumerate, and it takes a list. And so what that does is for each element in the list, it returns a tuple of its index and a copy of the element. So let's see that. So again, if we had our grades, we would say for our loop variable in enumerate grades, then assign that to grade, comma, notice the comma here, comma num. So that tuple, for each time it goes through enumerate, assign it to grade index, is how I'd read that, and num, or number. So then look, we can use both of those without having to pull out the grade. We already have a copy of it. It's a copy of it here. So we have grade index. And so if we ran through all of these, then we can see grade index 0, 1, 2 if we needed the index, and there it is. Now, loops and lists go together like peanut butter and jelly. And so in addition to iterating through lists, there are several more things that we can do with lists and loops. As an example, let's create a list of the first 10 powers of 2. So the powers of 2 from the base of 1 to 10. So we can just iterate through numbers 1 through 10 here with range, assign them to I, and then for each time we're going to append onto the end of this power of 2 list, which starts out as an empty list. And then we can display them, and yep, 2, 4, 8, 16, up to 1024. And there is our first 10 powers of 2. That's it for this video. Check out my other videos in this series.